Terry Pratchett started to overhaul the Discworld around about the turn of the millennium. He did that in two ways. Firstly, he started to bring to a close some of the stories and characters that had been around since the very, very beginning. And secondly, he started to expand and evolve the way he told stories on the Discworld as well. And the first book that's an example of that new way of telling the stories on the Discworld is The Fifth Elephant. Welcome to The Book Thing, my name's Mark, and this is my review for the 24th book in the Discworld series, The Fifth Elephant. While The Fifth Elephant is the fifth book centred around the Ankh-Morpork City Watch, it doesn't predominantly take place in Ankh-Morpork. The book is mostly about the land of Uberwald. Uberwald in the Discworld, think of it like fictional Transylvania. It is the part of the Discworld where all of the gothic and fictional creatures all come from. This is where all the vampires come from. This is where all the werewolves come from. This is where all the trolls come from. And also this is where all the dwarves come from. Uberwald as a country is rich in mineral and fat deposits, which is why it is of such vital importance to the city of Ankh-Morpork. That is where all of the fat is mined in order to supply the candles that keep the city of Ankh-Morpork lit. Legend has it that the reasons for all the minerals and fat is that in the early days of the Discworld, instead of 4 elephants standing on the back of the great turtle, there was 5. The 5th fell off, went into the orbit of the Discworld, and then crash landed in the land of Uberwald. So hence the title, The Fifth Elephant, and also the gag on The Fifth Element, which is a film that came out about 2 years before this book did. The various different races in Uberwald are always sort of jostling for power with each other, and we're in a period of unrest because it is the period when a new low king of the dwarfs is due to be elected. So the crowning of this new low king is sparking off this period of political unrest within Uberwald, not just amongst the dwarfs, but in the wider political structure, including the Lady Margalotta, who is the highest ranking vampire in Uberwald, and the von Uberwald werewolf clan, who is the family of Angua from the City Watch. So into this political mess, Veterinary, the patrician of Ankh-Morpork, decides to send a diplomat, and in that instance he decides to send the Duke of Ankh-Morpork, who just happens to be Sam Vimes, the commander of the City Watch, and probably the least diplomatic person in the entirety of Ankh-Morpork. So Vimes sets off for Uberwald with a political delegation that includes his own wife, Inigo Skimmer, a secretary that has been appointed by the patrician, Detritus the troll, and Cheery the dwarf, whose presence is going to cause some degree of controversy, given that Cheery likes to refer to herself as Cherie, because actually she identifies as a female dwarf, which is something that is pretty taboo among dwarf culture. So it's quite shocking to some of the more traditional dwarfs of Uberwald to see a dwarf showing up with things like lipstick and a skirt. She didn't get rid of the beard or anything, but, she's still got lipstick on. Independently of this, Angua takes off for Uberwald as well, having been informed by an old friend from there that there's some trouble afoot, and is then pursued by her boyfriend, Captain Carrot, who employs Gaspard the dog to help track her down. Some further intrigue is also provided by the fact that all low kings of the dwarves have to be crowned while sitting on the Scone of Stone, which is obviously a play on the Stone of Scone, which British monarchs are all crowned on. But there seems to be an implication that perhaps this ancient piece of dwarf bakery has in fact been stolen. And if you're going to send Sam Vimes into a situation, he's going to act like a copper and try to investigate the things that are going on. The theme of The Fifth Elephant is a real metaphor for what's going on in the Discworld at the moment. It is about the clash between old and new, between modernity and tradition, between the cosmopolitan Ankh-Morpork and the more traditional Uberwald and how those two cultures are starting to clash with each other. It is exemplified in characters like Cheery, it is exemplified in characters like Angua, and it's also exemplified in some of the other characters like Lady Margalotta, who is a vampire but a teetotaler, someone who has sworn off drinking blood so that they can now start to integrate into a modern society. And the clash between all of these and Angua's von Uberwald family, who are starting to see the traditions that they have held dear for a long time start to be eroded. And in some cases, that's quite a good thing. The other example of progress and modernity that we're seeing in this is the prevalent use of the clacks. The clacks are these large semaphore towers that transmit information and messages quickly and easily all the way across the Discworld and to people back and forth. Now, Terry Pratchett has played with the idea of taking modern technology and giving them an analogue in the Discworld before. There was, in Jingo, Sam Vimes had a personal organizer with a little demon in it, which was constantly trying to read him a warranty card and get him to set the date and things like that. Now, I have it in good authority that in the 90s, Terry Pratchett was actually going around with a little personal organizer taking notes all of the time. The clacks is slightly different though. The clacks is much more of a metaphor for mobile phones. Everyone is using them all the time. It's sprung up fast and it is now the go-to method of communication. And the clacks is actually something that becomes quite a regular feature within the Discworld stories going forward and plays a very, very prominent part when we get to Going Postal. By the way, I am reading the entire Discworld series, so if you'd like to continue to watch some of these reviews, please consider hitting the like and subscribe button. One of the biggest criticisms I actually have for The Fifth Elephant is the blurb. For some bizarre reason, whoever wrote the original blurb on the back of The Fifth Elephant gives away what is happening in the back third of the book. So if you are interested in picking up The Fifth Elephant, I really wouldn't read the blurb because it gives away virtually the ending of the whole story. The Fifth Elephant was one of the first Discworld books that I read, and I really, really enjoyed it now, and it still holds up today. It fleshes out the land of Uberwald really nicely. In addition to that, it starts to flesh out some of the races that we've seen before. So we've previously seen vampires in Carpe Jugulum. Now we start to see them integrate into the Discworld a little bit more in Fifth Elephant, and we'll see that again a bit more going forward. Someone else we were introduced to in Carpe Jugulum was Igor. And what we realise now in the Fifth Elephant is that Igor was not just a single creepy, weird servant. He is in fact a part of a race or clan or cult of Igors that have been acting as servants to all manner of strange people in creepy castles, and we see many of them here in Uberwald. All of the characters are actually really well served in this as well. I've previously complained that the Carrot and Angua relationship, where they're constantly at the mercy of Angua's worry about what their future holds together because she's a werewolf and he's not. That actually, rather than being a static thing now, that we start to actually see what's gone on and where Angua comes from that gives rise to a lot of these anxieties. And it actually lets them as characters start to evolve forward a little bit more, which is great. Again, we can see Vimes as the reluctant diplomat. And again, he's kind of growing into that role, much as he dislikes it. He's still a copper at heart, and he still looks for a crime to solve when he's been put into any situation he's not comfortable with. But we are getting to see him continue to evolve, and he's still one of my favourite, if not my favourite, of the Discworld characters. As with any Pratchett book, the humour is top notch, and actually he's particularly on good form in The Fifth Elephant. There's some really genuinely laugh out loud moments in it. There's a particularly hilarious subplot involving Sergeant Colin being left in charge of the City Watch in the absence of Carrot and Vimes, and his style of management causing industrial action on a massive scale. Fifth Elephant is one of the books that was written when Terry Pratchett was in his absolute prime on the Discworld. It's a 5-star read. So far, it's probably my favourite watch book, but there are a few more of those to go, and spoilers, but I don't think it's going to last as my favourite watch book for long, but highly recommended. It probably isn't great as a standalone. It works better if you do understand where some of these characters have come from, but if you have followed some of the City Watch, then this is an absolute must read. I hope you've enjoyed my review for The Fifth Elephant. The next book I will be reviewing is The Truth, so I hope to see you then. In the meantime, thank you very much for watching, and take care.